Good afternoon and welcome to Friday. It is Friday indeed, TGIF. It's almost the weekend, and today a little different. I think this is 2 weeks in a row. I think sitting in that chair last week was Jagmeet Singh, right about the same time. And today, thank you so much, and wonderful news. We have Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, sitting right over here. It's nice to see you again.
It's good to see you, Aaron. It's been a few years.
It has been a few years. So before we get into anything, and I said to you before, first of all, we don't get this opportunity very often. And second of all, I want you to know I'm not holding it against you that 7 years ago, the last time I interviewed, and I said to you, we'll talk again. You said, Aaron, anytime, just call me. It's now 7. It's
well,
7 years
call.
later.
I keep looking at my phone. And no. You know, Terry's got my
have
number.
The phone
if
record.
You could convince Terry to give you my text number, he'll let you in.
Terry DeMonte, who you're talking to, you two have been very good friends for very, very many years.
Yeah.
And I said
he
to one of
us the first time, actually.
One of the things I most enjoyed was the conversation you had with him when he was still over at Shom just before he left, and I thought it's something I've saved and I've actually played back on my show because it was a chance for you not to be wearing your Prime Minister hat, just to talk like an ordinary guy, if you will, and talk about what you went through and how you guys became friends. And I thought that was so powerful that I've saved it, and I played every now and then.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So I thought let's start that way.
Sure.
The first, you and I think first met doing a charity event. It was at Concordia University, and we had to sleep outside overnight, in a tent.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
To raise money for the homeless.
Yep.
And we were sitting there in a tent, sleeping on the cement. I think I left at about 3 a.m. I don't know how long you stayed.
I was
Did you
still
stay?
there for a bit, but yeah, it was. There was a trend around that. I mean, it was wearing high heels for a day to understand women. Trying to sleep in the street to understand being homeless. It's a nice idea in that it draws attention to the issue, but it is a little more performative than actually doing the things that you need to do to solve.
I'd like
challenges.
to think it's both. It's performative in a sense, but we did raise money, and it did get some noise, and that was the whole idea.
Oh yeah, no,
so that was great.
And you and I both remember that experience.
We do,
and how scary it is to be sleeping on a sidewalk outside of Concordia.
You think about it as nothing, no big deal until you do it for about 3-4 hours, and then realize, this is not something you ever want to do again.
Yeah.
And then I would see you in passing from time to time at a restaurant somewhere. You'd say hi. You were always very personable. Would always say hi. And then the next thing I know, you're Prime Minister.
Yeah, it just happens like that.
How's that working out?
It's amazing. I think one of the things that I'm grappling with is, as I am, no headlines on this one, probably closer to the end of my time as Prime Minister than I am to the beginning of my time as Prime Minister. You reflect on what actually gets done. I mean, so much of politics is the little things, the headlines, oh my God, did you hear what this minister said? Did you see what happened on that budget? But like the arc of the things that happen and that matter. And like I had the example of my dad, right, who got done official languages, who got done multiculturalism, and of course the charter. And those are the big things. Nobody remembered what he did on a Tuesday in late January of 76, where it was particularly difficulty and the difficultness and the headlines were screaming. Like, what are the things that matter? And I realized that that's sort of the thing that has always driven me. Like, what actually matters? And after almost 10 years in this job, even though there's lots of big things that we've done that have made a huge difference, like moving forward on the fight against climate change, strengthening the middle class in all sorts of ways, dealing with the pandemic, dealing with all sorts of big things, people are still really hurting. And I'm in the business of trying to figure out the solutions that are going to help things a little bit at a time where people are not just skeptical, pretty cynical about anything and anyone in politics.
It's funny you say that. I use that word a lot lately in politics, is cynical, because there are reasons to be cynical based on some of what's gone on. And it's interesting. We did a question. This may have only been yesterday. I think there's a new Angus Reid study that shows that almost half of Canadians have sort of feel disassociated. They consider themselves political orphans, if you will. No party, not your party, no political party, they say, almost nothing. Nobody speaks to them.
Yeah.
How do you deal with something? And this is not about partisan politics. No. It's about the political system now.
Well, it's about people realize, one of the challenges we face right now is, even though you get economists and politicians and people looking at the actual numbers saying, wow, the Canadian economy is one of the strongest in the G7 right now. Our debt is one of the lowest. The foreign investment is up. Like, more people are investing in Canada than in any other country other than other than Brazil and the US. And people say, like, yeah, but why then does it feel so
feel
crappy
it.
for me? And it's not just people who are known to be struggling. You've got families where you got like a doctor married to a lawyer, and they have kids in not in private schools but in good schools, and they're like, if I can't make ends meet right now, then the economy's not working for everyone. And there's a huge level of frustration on that. Now, there are signs that things are getting tangibly better. Wage growth is bigger than inflation now, because inflation's come down so seriously. We see the interest rates coming down and going to come down even faster probably over the coming months. That's going to help as well. But these are things that where people say, well, how can you actually help? And when we do deliver things like hundreds of thousands of seniors have now gone to see a dentist for the first time, many in a long time, because of the Canadian Dental Care Program, that takes a big chunk out of a budget that is already strained. More childcare spaces at $10 a day right across the country. That's helping people as well. A school food program that's delivering more food to 400,000 kids.
But that money has to come from somewhere. That's the problem, right?
Okay, but hang on. But that is money that's going to save $800 a year for an average family in groceries for the school food program, for example. So the question then becomes, and that's exactly the point, where everyone says, oh my God, listen to Trudeau. He's going on again about all that he's spent on all these different programs, and that's why we're in trouble. And that's sort of the dark brilliance of Polyev on this one, that he's managed to twist this around and convince people that confident countries shouldn't invest in themselves, that everything's broken, that everything's terrible right now. We have the lowest deficit amongst all advanced economies. We have an economy that is still rated AAA and a positive outlook, as opposed to the US that's a negative outlook. We have seen over the past few years more companies around the world investing in Canada than ever before, 60% up over 2015, because of the investments we've making in stronger communities, better training, stronger safety net, better environmental responsibility. And these things are all things that Polyev is saying we shouldn't be doing, because he wants to take the best balance sheet in the G7 and cut programs and services to people at exactly the time where people need programs and services. And the fact that he's convinced a whole bunch of people that somehow is responsible, that you can cut your way to growth, is one of those things that, it does fire me up, and it makes me angry that he is getting this message out there in a way that people are frustrated and cynical enough to say, let's just blame everything. It's all broken. That's not who Montrealers are. That's not who Canadians are. We're fighters. We're going to build this future, and we're going to do it by investing in our people, in our workers, in our families, and in our future.
My question was, how you doing?
I'm excited.
See, this is what happens, though, right? Because you kind of fall back into it. And I know this is your job, and you've been doing it a long time, and this is only natural for you to do. What do you do in your downtime?
But you could ask me who my favorite artist is right now, and I'd have a hard time answering, because I am thinking about this 24/7. I mean, especially at a moment when we get into this. My job right now is to figure out how to get Canadians out of this funk that we're in right now. And that for me is not just my job, it's my responsibility. It's how I was shaped as, son of my dad, but also as someone who became a teacher, was an environmental activist, worked with community organizations. This idea of serving community,
it's in your blood,
is
Sure.
what I am and what I do.
I'm kind of curious. If you go back, you've been prime minister now for a little over 9 years. Mm-hmm. When you first got into politics, what's that, 08 roughly?
08, yeah.
Could you ever have envisioned, and I know you were on the leadership, I get all that, but could you ever have thought when you first got into it that one day I'm going to be prime minister of this country?
Yeah.
Were you thinking that?
I was. Because for me, the decision to go into politics was undisassociable from what my father's experience was. And the amazing thing, when I started politics in Papineau, it was all the learning I had to do about what it is to be a local MP. how to deal with this immigration case file, how to be there for the seniors, how to pull together community organizations to organize a food drive. All those things of learning what actually matters in politics, I knew nothing about because despite my activism, my teaching and all that sort of stuff, for me, politics was about the statesmanship of getting the big things right, of dealing with that, because that's what I'd seen from my dad.
Right.
So those first years in politics, I had an idea, okay, I could absolutely end up prime minister one day. But first and most, I got to learn how to actually serve Canadians on the ground in the communities. And that's what Montreal taught me.
I would be remiss, of course, if I did not deal with some of the issues.
Sure.
There is an election coming up. Who knows? Maybe sooner than later. We can talk about that as well. So I want to do that. You're here in Montreal. There's a by-election coming up here on Monday. Can I take a really quick break and then we'll come back? We'll just get a traffic report and then come back.
Sounds good.
Is your water okay?
My water's okay.
Okay, great. All right, welcome back. The Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, our Prime Minister, in studio again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around. I'm getting dirty looks from your handlers already.
Okay.
You have to go.
I'm here.
Okay.
It's AD, man.
Thank you.
I grew up listening to this show.
Okay. So a couple of things. Let's deal with this by-election that's coming up on Monday. I'm guessing that's one of the reasons you're in town. I know you also had a big announcement today.
Yeah.
Up
in St. Anne de Bellevue.
Right. Okay.
Investing in aerospace. And that's one of the things. Investing in good jobs for the future in growing industries.
Okay.
That's something that we want to do.
So
keep doing.
This is a Liberal stronghold, has been for many years in LaSalle-Verdun. What we're hearing is it's pretty much a three-way race right now. So do you think you'll win? What do you have to do to win this thing? I mean, there are people, let's be honest, there are many people who have been lifelong Liberal voters who have suddenly said, you know what, I don't know, I'm not comfortable voting this way anymore. A lot of that falls perhaps on you. What do you do to convince them that Liberals need to win this particular by-election?
Well, I mean, I think this is a moment of a choice. It's a choice about the kind of country we want to have. And that's what the next election is really going to be. But simple things like, are we going to choose to continue to fight climate change? Are we going to go backwards? Are we going to continue to stand up for minorities? Are we going to still continue to stand up for diversity? Or are we going to go backwards? Are we going to let wedge politics carry us through? Or are we going to actually vote for our values? And the big choice, I mean, you say it's a three-way race. One of them is the Bloc. The Bloc has always come in second in this riding, and getting them in when they just want to make everything freeze and nothing work and pick fights wherever they can, well, that's not a right choice for Verdun. We know that.
Well, you're going to have to rely on them. You have the NDP now who pulled out of your supply and confidence agreement, and we know now from Pierre Poilievre there will be a non-confidence vote coming up soon. You don't know which way the NDP is going to go, although it's likely they won't try to bring the government down. But the Bloc, Francois Blanchet was on here the other day, and it was kind of like, well, you scratch my back, I might scratch yours. They want something from you to basically prop up the government. What happens?
Well, first of all, we have done lots of really big and positive things for Quebec because the Liberal Party of Canada has more seats in Quebec than the Bloc Québécois does and always had. I mean, we are always going to stick up for Quebec and Quebec interests in a way that keeps Quebec strong within Canada. And that's something we disagree fundamentally with the Bloc. Now, can we work together across different parties on progressive ideals? Absolutely, and we should in the House of Commons. That's what people wanted during the pandemic. They want parties to come together. Now, the Conservatives are just trying to get to an election as quickly as they can, and they're not offering any solutions. So the decision that the NDP made recently to walk away from a progressive agreement to get things done was disappointing, not surprising. I mean, he could have given me a call personally to let me know because we've been working together for a couple of years, but I'm not
you
that
literally
sensitive.
found out, half an hour before it happened?
Yeah, through my staffers. He didn't.
Right.
Did he reach out? Because we've been talking a lot about the things we want to do, and he didn't bother doing that.
Okay.
Anyway, that's telling, but that's it. But the more telling thing is how the first thing that he's fully jettisoned after our agreement ended is the environment. That the NDP has.
Let's let people know what you're talking about. Today we found out the NDP's decided to side with the Conservatives, right?
Yes.
And get away from the carbon tax.
And move away from a price on pollution.
Right.
Now, the thing is, the way we brought in, we'll call it a carbon tax, even though it's not exactly a tax, because it actually returns more money to middle class and people working hard to join the middle class in everywhere it's in across the country. 8 out of 10.
I'm going to stop you there. Pierre Poilievre was on with Elias earlier today.
Yep.
Since we're talking carbon tax,
Sure.
I want you to hear this and I want you to respond because this seems to be the focal point of his campaign. Axe the tax, right?
Yeah.
Here's what he said.
The carbon tax has deleted $25 billion of annual GDP. That works out to about $1,400 for every family in Canada. a number that is expected to skyrocket over the next 5.5 years as the NDP Liberal plan quadruples the tax to 61 cents a litre.
Okay. That's a lot of money if that's the case. What's wrong in that?
It's not the case. And this is it's something, there's a convention around parliamentarians that we're not supposed to call each other liars. Pierre Poilievre is a liar. And this is the problem. And we're not supposed to call each other that and call that out. But he knows full well. And the parliamentary budget officer proved this. 8 out of 10 Canadians in areas where the federal price on pollution is get more money every 3 months from the Canada Carbon Rebate than it costs them with the extra price on pollution. So this is, and we knew this from the very beginning, that it was essential that for once Canada actually moves forward on a real plan to fight climate change, which we're doing, which emissions are coming down, we're on track to meet our targets. This is the first in Canada ever, but that we do it not in a way that puts the burden on the middle class. So we designed it to put more money in people's pockets and reduce emissions, and it's working. But Pierre Poilievre won't talk about the Canada Carbon Rebate, won't talk about the numbers the parliamentary budget officer put forward that says, 8 out of 10 families in those jurisdictions do better with it. So it's a way of both fighting climate change and helping with affordability.
He says 5 years. He pointed that out in that clip, right? Saying down the road 5 years from now, it's going to cost you even more. What changes from year to year in this plan?
Any price on pollution needs to increase steadily. But as the price on pollution increases, so does the rebate. And the way the rebate works is if you do buy a more fuel-efficient car or an electric vehicle or redo your windows, you actually keep more of the rebate because you're spending less on fossil fuels to heat your car, heat your home, or drive your car. It's actually a small c conservative idea to price the things you don't want and not use the heavy hands of regulation or subsidies. And we do regulations and subsidies, but it's the best way to fight climate change. And we all know that the Conservatives don't care about that and just jettison that idea. But the fact that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP have now turned their back on climate change. Now, I know, and I've had lots of great conversations with Jagmeet. I know he cares about the environment. But I also know he doesn't have the foggiest idea of how to actually protect people, grow the economy, and fight climate change at the same time. He never has. The 2021 campaign platform for the NDP on climate change was the weakest we had seen in years. It was horrible. They don't have a plan to fight climate change. And I know the folks in Verdun, like all Montrealers, like indeed all progressives across this country, see climate change coming and know that it's not just a challenge for our kids and our forests and our world. It's the jobs and the economy of the future that we need to build around fighting climate change and creating innovative solutions.
I know you have to leave. I won't keep you too much longer. I have to ask the question, though, for people about to vote here in this by-election. So I'm wondering what you tell Montreal's Anglophone population, and I bring this up because I get these calls all the time whenever we talk about this, who feel the federal Liberals have let them down. The Official Languages Act, when Melanie Joly was still the minister, and basically left Anglos here hanging out to dry. And people say, okay, I remember that. I'm not quickly going to forget it. Is that going to change? How will you change that going forward?
Well, first of all, I understand that feeling because people are feeling, well, first of all, they see a government in Quebec City, Legault government, that has decided that the best way to protect French, which is something that I agree with, yes, we need to protect French, but Legault's decided the best way to protect French is to attack the English Canadians. And that doesn't make any sense. We see the most egregious example of it lately with the switch in hospitals. We also see it in his attacks on our alma mater at McGill, and his attacks on bishops and Concordia. But the idea that someone's going into a hospital for a test or something, anxious, they might have cancer, anxious, they might be sick, and is going to have to be worried about whether or not they can get treated in English because their French isn't that strong, that's just wrong. And we've been pushing on the Legault government to emit a new directive.
But nothing has happened. There's been no change.
They have said, they have committed to putting out a new directive and to change that directive, and we're going to keep pushing on them as we have to do that. Now, the one thing that Legault wants that I don't want is a fight. He's trying to pit people against each other, and my commitment to Canadians has always been to try and pull people together. And picking sides and trying to say, okay, this one's more strategic for me to back or not. No, I'm a proud Quebecer. I'm a proud Montrealer. My mom's from Vancouver. My dad's a francophone. Like, I get the duality. I get the strength of this town. I get the strength of this province.
But this idea of no wanting to pick a fight, and I get that. It may seem to some like you're just saying, go ahead, Quebec, and do what you want to do. I'm not going to stick my nose and get involved.
I am happy to pick a fight with Legault, and I have on a number of things. We're seeing Bill 21 to the Supreme Court. I'm continuing to push back against some of the nonsense and misleading information he's putting out around immigration. And I'm going to continue to stand up for minority rights and individual rights in this province, as I always have. But what I don't want to see is the kinds of divisiveness that led to referendums, that led to acrimony here in Montreal and indeed across the province.
Look, I know you have to go. As I said, I appreciate your time. Monday, by-election, people have asked the question. I don't know that there's a definitive answer to this. If the Liberals don't win, what does that mean for Justin Trudeau? Does anything change?
It means we've got even more work to do. But okay. I am confident.
You're not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere. I've got a fight to lead against people who want to hurt this country, who want to hurt our communities, and who want to take the country in directions that, quite frankly, are exactly the opposite of where the world needs to go, but where Canada has incredible advantages. Our natural resources, our innovation, our AI, our quantum, our diverse population, our trade deals with the world. These are all things that we built over the past 8 years and over the past 10 decades. These are things that are Canada's advantage. And right now, to throw up your hands and say, oh, it's all broken, let's just give up, that's not who we are.
You've taken a lot of body blows. There have been a lot of things said. I'm amazed. You've got to be pretty resilient, obviously, to be in this job to begin with. But there must be times when you hear this kind of stuff, even from within your own party sometimes, where you sit back and just look at this and go, is this worth it? Do I still want to do this?
Yeah, of course. There's always moments when you ask that question. But, people who get hung up on the fact that Pierre Elliott Trudeau is my father forget that he was my dad. He raised some very, very tough kids. And we believe deeply in the kind of country that we need to keep building. And what kind of person would I be if I gave up because suddenly it gets hard or people don't like me as much as they used to? I didn't get into this job because, I thought, well, this is great, I'll be popular. No. You serve this country because you believe in Canadians. You believe in what we can build. You believe what we can actually do as a country if we focus ourselves in the right way. That's what I've been doing for the past few years, and the job's not done yet. And I'm excited about taking on Poilievre and showing Canadians that choice that they get about the kind of country we want to be.
Listen, I thank you so much for your time. Look, I have a campaign song for you if you want to use it.
That's
Feel
so
free.
kind of
Feel
you.
free to use this. Go ahead.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
What do you think?
I love it. Okay. Chumba Woman's always a phrase.
There you go. Justin Trudeau, thank you so much for coming in. It's great to see you again. I appreciate your time today.
Good to see
as
you,
always.
Aaron.
We're going to take our break.
Soon. Call me. I'll come on the show whenever you like.
Don't start that again. We'll be right back.